Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry, that intro took a little bit longer than I wanted it to. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? What the fuck? Hello. Good morning, guys. Stevio, thank you so much for 4 months. Good morning, everybody. Hello. How's everybody doing? Jay, Sillies, Man, Tim, Pro, Walter, Big Leafy, Tree, Silliest Goose, Tim, Bad Analysis, Rokushu, My BFF, Shogun, B-, Dave, Akiva, Mo Fish, and Pesky. I have eaten foliage. David, Dylan, Mushroom, Vague, Zach, Bellamont, Henry. Thank you so much for 15 months, buddy. That dog bit me, Lopsided Pixel, Hippie, Box Stripper, Omega, Fatal Flaw. Thank you so much for 87 months, bud. Ace Reactions, Pound Cake, Outcast, Jaji Baramu, Crookja, Shuckle Knuckles, Llama Styles, Calvicide. Good morning. Oh, a Hassan tweet. Okay. I think we have a new intro stream starting screen. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have a new one. Time to switch it out. We got some good mileage out of the Ogre Boy one, but this one we got to do this. Okay, so hang on, one step at a time. One step at a time. First, we screen cap it with Giazzo, because I don't know how to do it any other way, literally. Okay, we go like this. Okay. We go like this. Then we're going to go over here. Oh, I don't even have the starting soon screen on. What the fuck? Hold on. That's got to go down there. We get the picture. We switch it out. Bing, bang, boom. Clip it, ship it. There you go. No intro starting screen. That's the one. Baramood, did I say thank you for 49 months? Thank you so much, buddy. Appreciate it. Good fucking morning, guys. There was a seismic shift in Texas last night. Oh my goodness. Did you guys see those margins? They're fucking insane. Did you guys see these results out of Texas? They're actually insane. Like, insane results out of Texas last night. Brian Tyler Cohen covered it. Let's listen to this beautiful man talk about this insane race out of Texas last night.
Some breaking news here. Democrat Taylor Remick just flipped a seat in the Texas State Senate's 9th District, a seat that went for Donald Trump by a staggering 17 points in 2024 and went for the Republican candidate by 20 points in 2022. Now going for the Democrat by over 14 points, meaning this is a 31% overperformance.
What the fuck? This is why I say stuff like Texas. It's possible, you know. Rico, it's possible. I don't want to get my hopes up too much, but it's possible. And I say that because of this shit. This is a fucking insane swing. And this is not like a tiny amount of people voting, right? Well, I don't know. For a district, 94,000.
By the Democrat in this Texas seat. In other words, this is not a purple seat. This is a ruby red safe seat that has been in Republican control since 1991, which is now blue. And here's what's even crazier. Look at the spending differential in this race. The top candidate is the Republican.
This is the other thing too, you guys. This is the other thing too. They were outspent by a margin of like 10 to 20x. Not only is this a ruby red district, the Democrat in the race was massively outspent, like massively outspent. And the Democrat flipped a seat that has not been blue since the 90s by like 17 points. That is fucking crazy. Like, when was the last time we saw a swing like this jarring? Gamopotamus, thank you so much for 4 years, buddy. Appreciate you, pal.
Again, the bottom candidate, the Democrat. Look at the difference in expenditures. The fact that Republicans had that much of an advantage over the Democrats, and yet Remick still won, goes to show the massive amount of enthusiasm on the left, or the anemic enthusiasm on the right. Either way, doesn't exactly bode well for the GOP as we head toward midterms. I should note very quickly that I'll be covering every race between now and midterms, all the special elections. So if you'd like to follow along and support independent media in the process, the best way to do that is to subscribe to this channel, which is and always will be 100% free. Just hit the subscribe button. Now, here's the thing. This seat in Texas isn't some isolated fluke. It is the latest data point in what is becoming an undeniable trend. Democrats are overperforming everywhere. In November's general election just a few months back, Democrats dominated. They won the
I think I just said thank you, but Gamopotamus, thank you so much for 4 years.
New Jersey and Virginia gubernatorial races by double digits. They flipped their first non-federal statewide offices in Georgia in nearly 20 years. They passed a massive redistricting ballot measure in California despite early doubts by a staggering 2/3 margin. They retained the state Supreme Court majority in Pennsylvania, which is another state that Trump won in 2024. And Venturing into even redder territory, there's Tennessee's high-profile 7th congressional district just a few months back, where Democrats came within 9 points of winning a congressional seat in a district that Trump won by 22 points, and were...
The blue wave is building, about to hit the midterms like it's a disaster film. Oh my God, man. I just want to fast forward time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just ready. Let's fucking go. Like, let's just get to it. I don't think I would ever, like, if I had a magic genie, I don't think I would wish for eternal life, because that would be, well, there would have to be some caveats. Like, what does eternal life mean? Like, what happens to you when there's like the heat death of the universe? What kind of existence do you even, like, how does that work? You know? What if there's like a big crunch? You know, there's some theories that that there's big bangs and big crunches and big bangs and big crunches, and the universe is just constantly cycling between these things. What does that mean if you have eternal life? Are you just like floating in space? You just float around in space and chill? I mean, literally, you would be very chill if you did that, right? Like, I don't think I want eternal life, but you know what I do want? I want the ability to freeze myself and then thaw out, like, whenever I want, you know? But even that's kind of risky, because what happens if you freeze yourself and then, like, nuclear war? What the fuck happens then? Then I guess it's just like Fallout, right? Anyways.
Former Republican lawmaker Mark...
I wish I could freeze myself until November, just so we can just get there. Because I think people need to... a lot of people need a shot in the arm. Like, the dooming, I think, is not as bad in 2026. The doomer vibes were fucking unbearable in 2025. Tested my sanity many a time. But they've been decidedly better since the election, and I think people are going to feel a lot better after the midterms. Personally, that's my opinion. I think people are going to feel a lot better.
Green had won by 21 points. A 22-point Trump district became a 9-point race. There's a 13-point swing there toward the Democrats. According to CNN, Democrats over...
I'm genuinely scared some of my friends won't vote because they think it's all over. This is one of those things where it's like the vibes online, the doomer vibes, are not matching or mapping to reality at all. At all. You go into certain online spaces and people are talking about the end of the Republic. Trump's kicking off 1,000-year Reich. What's the point anymore? Like, it's just the vibes are so doomer in some spaces. And then you look at actual election results for the last year, and it's like, bro, we are fucking annihilating these people. Annihilating them. Absolutely decimating the Republican Party.
Overperformed by double digits in every single special election for the House held in 2025. Every single one. In fact, 2025 special elections account for 5 of Democrats' 15 biggest overperformances since Trump first became president in 2017, nearly a decade ago, across more than 36 special elections. Now, in terms of why Democrats are cleaning up in special elections and general elections alike, even in deep red districts, it's because voters are waking up to the bill of goods that they've been sold. Remember, Trump ran on one central promise: affordability. He was going to lower costs on day one. That was the pitch. Vote for me and your groceries will be cheaper, your gas will be cheaper, everything's going to be more affordable. And what happened? The exact opposite. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, grocery prices have risen since Trump took office in January. Consumer prices overall are up during Trump's second term. Inflation is down only 0.2 of a point since Biden left office, none of which, of course, is going to stop Trump from lying about it. He claims
I am going to switch sides that I watch videos on. I don't know why I didn't do this before. So it looks like I'm looking at the camera. Okay, so we're going to do that. It just occurred to me to do this. Why haven't I done this the whole fucking time? It makes way more sense to be on the other side. So let's like that. Like that. 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 There we go. This makes way more sense. This is just so obviously, just makes more sense to have it on this side of the screen. We're just going to do that. Okay, there it is.
Claims constantly that grocery prices are way down. They're not, they're up. He claims that inflation is at 2%. It's not, it's at 3%. He claims that gas prices are almost $2. They're over $3 nationally. And even as Trump denies reality, the typical American household is now spending $208 more per month to buy the same goods and services as they did in September of 2024, according to Moody's Analytics. That is $208 more per month. And when you zoom out even further, the typical household is spending over $1,000 more per month than they did at the start of 2021. $1,000 per month more than when the greatest defender of high prices in history, Joseph R. Biden, was president. Everything Trump trashed Biden on, as far as affordability is concerned, just remember that Donald Trump is literally more expensive than that guy. But it's not just that costs have come down. Donald Trump is actively making things worse with his tariffs. For example, the Tax Foundation estimated that his tariffs have raised the average American household's cost by $1,200 per year, and that number is expected to rise to $1,600 this year. The average tariff rate has jumped from 2.4% before Trump came back to the White House to 28% at its peak. That is a massive tax increase on working American families, because remember, we are the ones who pay those tariffs, and Trump has the audacity to stand there and tell people that affordability is a con job by the Democrats. And frankly, voters aren't buying it. They're seeing through the bullshit.
We didn't even cover it, but the Trump, what did he say about the cost of houses? He said some crazy shit on Friday, guys. Abundance lib stock, you guys, about to go sky fucking high. Wait, where's the clip? Trump, when you make it too easy and cheap to build houses. I think he said it on camera. Oh, fuck. I need to change everything now. Wait, hang on. God damn it. All right, hold on. I'm so sorry. I fucked this up. She's got those crazy eyes right there, man. I didn't realize Kayleigh McEnany has such crazy eye holes. Look at those eyes. That is very unnerving. Hang on, bear with me. Go like that. We're gonna go like that. Okay, better. Better. We're gonna go down to right about there. Okay, that's better. There we go.
And existing housing, people that own their homes, we're going to keep them wealthy. We're going to keep those prices up. We're not going to destroy the value of their homes so that somebody that didn't work very hard can buy a home. We're going to make it easier to buy. We're going to get interest rates down. But I want to protect the people that for the first time in their lives feel good about themselves. They feel like they've, that they're wealthy people. And I want them to understand it. There's so much talk about, we're going to drive housing prices down. I don't want to drive housing prices down. I want to drive housing prices up for people that own their homes. And they can be assured that's what's going to happen.
Okay, hold on. What percentage of Americans own their homes versus those that rent. I think more people own their homes, right? Am I wrong about that? Parker with 85 months. Thank you so much. It's been 85 years / months. About 2/3 of U.S. households own their homes, while roughly 1/3 rent. The most recent nationwide data shows home ownership at 65.7% and renting at 34.3%. This is the political problem with trying to drive the cost of housing down. Because Americans buy their homes and treat it like an asset because that it appreciates in value because that's what it is. And the more their homes appreciate in value, the more prohibitive the cost is for people who have never bought a home to buy their first home. And so what do you do about that? There's like this big old fucking disconnect. Any thoughts on Hassan ban? I mean, like, they had to come up with TOS just because of this guy and his community. ContraPoints talked about it in her post about why she didn't really focus a lot on Israel-Palestine. But it gets to be a problem where if you substitute the word Zionist for like Jewish person and then like insert that, it can be a real problem. Okay, like a lot of people use the word Zionist as a stand-in for Jewish person. I'm not saying that's what Hassan is doing, but a lot of people do that to sort of get away with like anti-Semitic language. Like a lot of people do that. Like they say the word Zionist, but they obviously mean like Jewish person. And it got to be such a problem that Twitch had to come out with a new TOS policy specifically because of these people. And Hassan violated that policy and, you know, positioned himself as a martyr. Basically sent the vibes out there that Twitch was cracking down because of their Zionist, quote unquote, overlords. Because he's such a strong pro-Palestinian voice. Like, what's my opinion on Hassan getting banned? I don't really have a strong opinion. I don't really care too much one way or the other.
Which is exactly why Democrats are surging, which is to say nothing of the fact that there's ICE raids and extrajudicial killings and threats to go to war with Greenland and this relentless focus on himself and his ballroom and his jets. This guy does not give a flying fuck about regular people, and yet Trump's response to all of this has been to deny reality and double down on his lies. Here are some of the latest comments he made on affordability.
No, but they caused the problem. And then they came up, you know, it's a word that they came up with, affordability. Every time you hear the word, remember, they're the ones that caused the problem. And first time you heard about it was like a few months ago. This election's all about affordability. Well, they're the ones that caused the problem. But nobody knows that. You know, people forget. So they say, oh, affordability, let's vote for the Democrats. It's no, affordability. They caused a tremendous price.
This guy. This guy, it's just incredible posture. This guy's like the guards that are stationed outside of like Windsor, the Windsor estate. The ones that aren't allowed to move. At this guy, man, perfect posture, just not moving a single muscle in his body.
Price increases. It was caused by the worst inflation we've ever had.
Okay, there he goes.
And they come up with this word affordability. And I saw it even, although you're not hearing it so much anymore. You know why? Because the prices are coming down so much.
But while he claims that affordability is suddenly a Democrat hoax or Democrat scam, people know what they pay at the.
I mean, I take your point about double standards. I think I've seen some crazy Asmongold clips of him proposing capital punishment for the the craziest things. So like, I understand that point. But to be honest with you, like Hassan stands complaining about double standard and Twitch TOS, like, come on. Let other people make that point. I don't think you get to make that point. Other people can make that point with more credibility. Okay. I'm frankly shocked that they banned him. Like, I'm shocked.
Grocery store. They know what their rent costs. They know whether they can afford healthcare or childcare or food. And they're tired, frankly, of being gaslit by a president who lives in a gold-plated penthouse and golfs at his own resorts while they're scraping by. And here's the other thing. Trump isn't just hurting Americans financially, he's also enriching himself in the process, which obviously does not go unviewed by Americans. So while families are spending an extra $200 per month just to get by, Trump is showering himself in gold and crypto, profiting off the presidency, using his office to line his own pockets while ordinary Americans suffer. And voters are noticing. So look, the Texas race is important not just because Democrats won, but because of what it signals moving forward. It signals that voters are fed up.
What's the latest tally on the dollar amount that Donald Trump has added to his net worth since the second term? Isn't it up to like $4 billion now? Some unfathomable number.
Up that they are paying attention, that they're
Hassan was banned for 7 days, I believe.
holding Trump and Republicans accountable for breaking their promises, and it signals that Democrats have found.
Yeah, and he just announced a lawsuit against the IRS for his tax returns getting out. A $10 billion IRS lawsuit. What does that even mean? Like, he is the president of the United States of America. The IRS is an agency that serves under the executive branch. So what happens now? Is he just going to direct them to settle with him? Like, how does that work? Just to be absolutely clear, that's your money, you know, like that's your tax money that would be used to settle this lawsuit. Like, I have no idea. How does this even work? There's no precedent for this as far as I'm aware. The president of the United States suing the federal government or suing an agency under the executive branch. What are they just gonna, is he just gonna call him up and be like, yeah, you're gonna settle and I want the full $10 billion? Like, how does this play out?
Found a winning message, which is to focus on affordability, call out Republicans' hypocrisy, and meet voters where they are. Because here's the reality. Trump promised to make America affordable again, and instead he's made it more expensive. He promised to lower costs, and instead he's raised them with his tariffs. He promised to deliver for working families, and instead he's delivered for himself and his pals. And voters in Texas and Miami, Tennessee, New Jersey, Virginia, everywhere else are starting to see through it. So as Trump continues to do everything but deliver for Americans, it is him and his party that are suffering the consequences. And given the fact that Trump can't seem to ever help himself, it looks like this result in Texas may very well be a preview of what's to come this November.
Anywho, more on that from MS Now. Then we're going to watch a Pete Buttigieg interview on Fox News.
Good morning. It is Sunday, February 1st. Today,
just to get some more details on this particular race, we probably won't watch this whole video. We got a bunch of videos to get through today. I'm going to try my best to not pause every fucking 2 seconds. I do want to actually, hold on. Wait, hang on a minute. Hang on, just a goddamn minute. Okay. DGG, are you guys in here? Or some DGG people in here? We gotta talk, bro. We gotta talk. I don't know what's going on. I was made aware of another thread about me on the Reddit, and I don't even know what to say about some of this shit. I don't think I'm sleeping all that well. Okay. I saw some comments in here. A lot of tired sides of the comments about him being too optimistic went off on a tangent about black pill libs and liberals starting to talk like lefties, and then went off on like a jazz improv solo that got him to something unrelated, as he does. My favorite was when OP called him bad faith. You could see the top reply saying, I don't think he's bad faith, and he still went off on it. I've been known to do that from time to time. I don't know where people get some of the impressions of me that they seem to have. It is a giant mystery to me. Like, for example, like I've always been kind of going at it with like, well, not always, but like, is this the one that I was thinking of? Black pillars suck, but from what I've seen, people often mistake honesty about the extent of how fucked up things are and will be for a while for black pillory. At least on this sub, I rarely see people who are actually black pilled, e.g. nothing can be done, every man for himself, but I see a lot of realists being falsely accused of giving up, pointing out that things are extremely fucked up and will continue to be so unless things change rather radically. It's not black pillory. It is extremely aggravating to see people believing that Trump's death will suddenly make all the structural reasons behind the explosion of a populist cancer disappear. If not believing in this delusion is black pillory, then sure, call me a black pillar. A moment as dark as our current one does not arise from one single populist strongman politician. Is the signal of a very deep rot that will take decisive action to be rooted out. Hold on, this might not be the thread that I'm thinking of. One second, hang on. Somebody in DGG called for an alliance between DGG and Hutchpole. Smodge, I don't know if you're in here still, but Smodge set up a subreddit, you guys. It's r/Hutchpole. Oh shit, is my mic doing it again? I apologize. Mic check. Is that better? Is that better? I'm not hearing the feedback that you guys are hearing. Okay, somebody wrote, I know we disagree with Hutch on things, but this isn't the guy we should spend the majority of our time arguing with. Is this what was happening? Is that what was happening in the first place? Leftists and MAGA, I think most of us can recognize Hutch as a good faith guy, even if he's naive on some things, like how much optics truly matter, or how little it matters in the modern political environment. There was the apology post where it seemed we were cool with Hutch, but then there was a post on Hutch responding to the thread and people were kind of on his ass again. Hutch and his community agrees that Trump is the biggest threat, which matters. That should be pretty much all that matters for an alliance right now. I get an alliance with the Hutch community or Hutch polls, as they just, the framing is so confusing to me. Because, you know, setting aside any like controversies that Stephen kind of brings on himself, I feel like it entirely overlaps. Like my community's kind of like politics are very, very similar, but the framing, it's like, guys, we need to set aside our differences. And I'm like, wait, what are the big differences here? I don't even understand. When do we fast forward to Hutch stands controlling LSF? Okay, hang on. The dooming needs to stop, and if that means bald resist libs start crashing out on dipshit doomers that think they can Fed post after 10 p.m., at this point they have my fucking blessing. Holy shit, this shit needed to stop. It needed to stop a long time ago. God. I agree. This is going to catch me some flack because I'm going to be critiquing human behavior in general, but definitely the community a bit. Hey, Midlife Maddie. Hey, buddy. How you been? Thank you so much. Appreciate the 5 gifted, buddy. The community obviously likes to parrot a lot of what streamer says, which is normally fine. It isn't. People should use their own logic and reasoning to get to the answer. And one of those pitfalls was the emergence of calling perceived controls, concern trolls optic cucks. Similar to any derogatory label used by any community, the scope of the word eventually widens to mean anyone I disagree with in this context. I think a lot of the time it's less about someone being optics cucked and more of people being optic regarded. What I mean by that is they're trapped in a very tight echo chamber of edginess that they lose their sense of scale on a spectrum and nuance, and instead look at the rhetoric as binary. Either you're fully optic cucked or you're based, full bore or no bore. There's no in between, and that just isn't how the world or being a human in actual conversation works. People in general have become pretty performative and less logical. We make fun of leftists for eating their own, for them not conforming to 100% of the ideals of the individual, even if it's 90% of the way. But this isn't a leftist problem. It's a performative yapper problem, because the same thing happens here. If people were to take a step back and look at what the goal is, instead of being anti-optics and saying you're a cuck if you don't agree with me in Nebraska-based Steve, then we'd quickly realize that we want the same goal, and it's a matter of different tactics to different audiences to achieve said goals. Here, I'm about to give you guys the reason why we cannot ignore optics. And I want you guys to guess. There's like one fact about this country that necessitates that we don't disregard optics. I want you guys to guess what that is. Why do optics matter? Okay, didn't take you very long. I mean, maybe I wouldn't. Okay, yeah. Okay, yes. You guys get it. All right. You're very smart. You guys got there pretty much immediately. Okay. One way to say it is people are stupid. Another way to say it is people are disengaged. But most of the country are disengaged from politics. They're not reading New York Times articles. They're not reading Wall Street Journal articles. They're not consuming political content 1 to 5 hours every day. If you guys are regulars in my stream or other political streams, you guys are in the top 1% in terms of political news consumption in this country. Most people do not do what we do. They do that with sports, or they do that with other hobbies, or maybe they do that with the markets. They do that with like technology. No. We are not better than them. That's not the point. That's not the point. It's just for whatever reasons, our brains are wired to find this shit interesting. Just eternally interesting. I didn't choose this life. It chose me. I didn't wake up one day and decide, you know what? I'm going to become like obsessed with politics. It just happened. That's just the way it worked. But most people do this with other things besides politics because politics drives them fucking insane. Which, you know, you can sympathize. Who can't sympathize with politics driving them insane? But because we're in a situation in this country where, you know, 60 to 80% of the country don't really like follow politics, optics matters. And as frustrating as it is, MAGA has done, I would say, a pretty good job up until the November election. They did a pretty good job, not just like MAGA, but the conservative movement broadly, they did a pretty good job of like twisting the narrative. And so we've all probably had the experience out there in the world, not online, like literally out there in the world. And maybe politics comes up in a conversation and some normie that you're having a conversation with speaks about some insane thing that never happened. Oh yeah, but you know, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, here's a good example would be like a normie suggesting that, you know, a lot of people that are in the country illegally like vote. Because they've heard it 1,000 times. They've heard it 1,000 times. Like, you have to be really plugged into politics to know that there have been forensic audits of elections all over the country for decades. Widespread voter fraud has never been a thing. There is no evidence of illegal immigrants voting in elections. Like maybe it happens like once or twice in an election cycle where like over 100 million people are voting. And yet it gets repeated so often that people just assume that it's true. And like there are many such cases of stuff like this happening. And you can be really pissed off about this. You can spend your time being really angry about this, which it is angering, just to be clear. But you don't actually have to spend that time like stewing in that rage. And instead you could ask yourself, okay, what is the most effective way to pierce through that? I think the second approach is much more productive. Much more productive. And I feel like with like the doomer libs, they've just kind of thrown their hands up in the last year and just given up. And then their language sounds a lot like firebomb LARPers in leftist spaces. Like before you know it, the rhetoric sounds like almost identical. You'll say, oh, we should concern ourselves with optics. We should consider like, ooh, I don't know about taking that approach. I feel like the normies are going to be turned off by that. You could reflexively be like, well, here's 10 things that Trump did that are 1,000 times worse, and fuck the normies and fuck Trump. Blah, 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 blah. You could do that. But is that the most productive use of your time? Like, you still have to ask the question, like, how is this going to be perceived? How is this likely to be perceived? If that's being optics cucked, then I don't even know what to say. Bellamont said that Vosh has gone full accelerationist. Can I see what you're talking about? Is there a video of Vosh talking about accelerationism? Hammer my guts with $5. I joined Hutch Poll because I'm based in Baldpilled. I plan to post some of the news I get from my RSS feeds to keep the community engaged, like how other poll subreddits do. Shout out to RSS feeds. By the way, goated method for detoxing from the internet. Cheers. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate your support over on r/Hutch Poll. You know what? Maybe I start checking that for the news in the morning. All elite memes with $5. Optics matter. I went from Hassan to Destiny to Hutch. I learned a lot from Destiny, but Hutch understands the political game in terms of strategy optics. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I try to. Far lefty and conservative tiers donated $5. DGG doesn't hate you, but your group of friends dropped Destiny before the court case even went through, which left a bad taste. It hindered online Dems. Here's the deal with that, okay? Here's the deal with that. What I think you need to understand is that every creator, and maybe my perspective is a little bit different because I've been doing this for like 16 years. content creators, and especially I would say political content creators whose job it is to opine on things, their careers entirely rest on their reputations. They would not be able to make a living if people viewed them to be compromised in some kind of way or an unreliable source of information. I mean, on paper, like you get people like Tim Pool and Candace Owens who get paid millions of dollars to say insane things, but nonetheless, the principle remains valid. Everybody has to protect their brand, to use cringe language. That's a big part of longevity in this space. I can't tell you how many content creators a video of theirs goes viral. They enjoy short-term success. They quit their jobs, you know, they dedicate everything to what they're doing in this space. And this is a job, guys, that you can lose overnight. You can fucking lose this job overnight for things that you have no control over. You can lose this job because of algorithm changes. You wake up one morning and all of a sudden your videos that reliably were bringing in, I'm not saying this for me, but let's just like create a hypothetical. Let's say there's a creator, every time they upload a video, they know that they're reliably going to make like $5,000 per video. And then they wake up one day and then that's down to like $250. And they didn't do anything different. They just woke up one day, the algorithm was tweaked, and it fucked them. It fucked them. Welcome to being employed. No, hang on. There's a volatility in this kind of space that I think is much higher than the average job. It's not that there are no other jobs out there where you have volatile swings. But number one, you're self-employed. There's no security there. The only security that exists for somebody who is self-employed is the security that they themselves create. Number two, we exist on social media platforms. These platforms are changing profoundly, like year after year. Like every year there's really big changes, usually. Really big changes that you need to adapt to. So I love this job. I'm not complaining about this job. It's an awesome job, but you have to constantly adapt. And there's a lot of uncertainty, okay? And so when something happens like what you mentioned with the court case and all that whole thing, I don't think that you should judge creators for distancing themselves when they did to protect their space on the internet. Not personal. Not personal, but you have to prioritize yourself when you do this for a living. And that shit was toxic. So even if you have your own opinion about, I don't keep up with the court case, just to be clear, like I just don't. More information will be revealed. That process will play out. Great. But I don't think that you guys should judge people for protecting their shit, okay? No matter how you put it, it sounds slimy. If that sounds slimy to you, I don't think that's slimy. That to me is just standard, okay? You guys seem to have opinions about the ongoing court case. I'll take your word for it. I'm not keeping up with all that. And more information, I'm sure, will hit the internet and people can make their own kind of determinations. But yeah. The only thing that I think of now is like, if let me put it this way. I have had friends in the space that do content who have made mistakes, and I had like a pre-existing friendship with that person, and I didn't cut them out of my life because that's not, to me, that's not what a friend does. Like, if you're friends with someone and they make a mistake and whatever, you know. So there's people that were closer to him that did not, they decided they didn't want to like distance themselves because they had that close friendship. There's nothing wrong with that either. There's nothing wrong with that either. It's just a case by case kind of situation. But I don't want to get bogged down too much on this conversation, but I just want to say, like, of course people distance themselves. Like, of course they did. Of course they did. You got to protect your shit, bro. You have to protect your shit. No one's going to do that for you. As a sole trader for 3 years, I've learned that people only focus on when you make money and never acknowledge the pitfalls that you have to ride out, like illness, changes in environment, etc. Content creation is just, it is so volatile. I mean, for the top like 1%, the fucking Valkyries and the Pokemanes and the Hassans and the Asmongold's, their life's fucking good, man. What a good situation they've got. But for most everybody else, you have to, there are, you know, peaks and valleys. We'll put it that way. Peaks and valleys. My career, there's been a lot of peaks and a lot of valleys. And it has made me insane at times. Insane. I'll give you an example. Twitter used to actually be a pretty good source of income. Like, kind of nuts, actually. Twitter has a program for people that can monetize videos, but the program is small. And because it was small, that meant a smaller pool of creators were getting more of a bigger pool of advertising. And so that was a really good situation for a minute there. Okay. And I got used to that. And then it was like right around the time that Elon started talking about buying Twitter. And this isn't, I'm not being conspiratorial, I'm just giving you the timeline. Right around the time that Elon started to like make moves and really, try to take over Twitter. It was like, right, I think it was in 2022, maybe early 2022. That went from, a pretty good chunk of income and like a pretty decent, like a really big part of my income to like basically zero. I'm not asking you to feel bad for me. Okay. That's not the point. But the point is, it's just stuff happens totally outside of your control as a creator. And you just have to adapt to that. But there was a minute where that drove me insane. Like it was driving me insane. It's like, what am I going to do? And like insane amount of stress. But, figured it out. Nevertheless, it's, this shit can make you crazy for sure. All right, let's just go ahead and dive into, this is a interview that Dana Bash did with the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, talking about the Epstein files.
Is the Department of Justice considering bringing any additional charges here?
Well, look, I can't talk about any investigations, but I will say the following.
I do want you guys to help me find, is there a Vosh video of him doing accelerationist stuff? Because I keep hearing people say this. Vosh has gone full accelerationist. Is there a video on his channel where it kind of dives into that?
Which is that in July, the Department of Justice said that we had reviewed the files, the quote Epstein files, and there was nothing in there that allowed us to prosecute anybody. We then released over 3.5 million pieces of paper, which the entire world can look at.
I'm so sorry. I'm pausing so much today, but I didn't read all the super chats. Patrick with $5. I still think this admin is going to mess with the midterms in some way, especially now that they see seats flipping. Cross that bridge when we get there. Parker with 85 months. Thank you, buddy. Das Vidania with $2. Not doing debate prep for Vadim and Ogre Boy. LOL. I don't think that is happening tomorrow. I think that's happening the week after. It keeps getting delayed. I don't know what's going on there. Nico with $5. Yes, autism. Das Vidania with $5. I listened to a hockey podcast, and the host said basically, if you listen to this sort of content, you're the real freaks. The same thing applies. Yes, if you're tuning into a political streamer multiple days a week, you are in the top like 1% of consumption of political news. Vadim reached out and asked me to unblock him so he could access all the tweets of mine that he had bookmarked. And I obliged. Get him those receipts. I think the benefit of generally trying to be a good, like an honest person, means that I don't worry about these kinds of things. Like, there's not one single tweet of his that he could bring up that I think would make me feel uncomfortable. Like, I feel reasonably confident that there's, like, any tweet he brings up, I should be able to, like, rather quickly contextualize the tweet and unpack the nuance or whatever it is I'm talking about. Like, I'm not fucking do your thing, bro. But that was a condition he set. Like, he said he didn't want to come on Live and Learn unless I unblocked him so he could access his bookmarks. I was like, fine, go for it, go nuts. All right, are we caught up here? Naughty Pup, thank you so much for the tier 1 membership. Reacts channel 2 tweets for stream title. React channel 2 tweets for stream title. What are you talking about? Reacts channel 2 tweets for stream title. Oh, yeah. This was what Trump tweeted or posted right before this bloodbath election in Texas. Today is the day to all voters in Texas's 9th state Senate district. Get out and vote for a phenomenal candidate, Leigh Wamsgans. She is a highly successful entrepreneur and an incredible supporter of our movement to make America great again. My very good friend, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, needs a strong conservative Republican in SD9 to keep Texas red. The radical left Democrats are spending a fortune to beat a true MAGA warrior, Leigh Wamsgans. You can win this election for Leigh, who has my complete and total endorsement. Polls close at 7 p.m. And then they went on to lose a seat that has not been Democrat since the 90s. Fucking incredible. Vosh link. Is this a video of Vosh going full doomer?
Is there any reason it's all...
We are driving off a cliff and no one can grab the wheel. Oh boy, that does sound very doomer. We're a little bit all over the place. We're skipping around a lot. I fully understand that. I'm sorry. I'm like very much in guys can't see in my ADD this morning. I have to go to the bathroom actually, so I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to let this play. We'll come back and we'll watch Vosh Doom on the timeline. Give me just a few minutes.
See that the tides are turning, like the vibes have mapped.
I am turning Tangia off. Okay? I'm turning Tangia off right now, just to be clear.
Massively shifted. Look no further than the podcast bros. A year and 4 months ago, 5 months ago, Donald Trump was on this guy's podcast. They were laughing it up. They were chumming it up.
If you see it with your own eyes, you know exactly what happened. And there's something disgusting that's happening, not only in Minneapolis, I'm sure it's happening in other parts of the United States, where it's ICE is under the guise of security, right? Under the guise of safety, because that's what they're doing, right? Is every time something horrific happens, they keep going, but look at the pedophiles we got. Look at the murderers we got. Look at all the violent criminals we got. I looked at the numbers. It's 5% of the people they deported are violent criminals.
Yes.
There's probably more in the Oval Office.
Exactly. If you bring up another file about deporting and you're not releasing the Epstein list, just shut the fuck up, all of you.
Yes.
I don't want to hear anything else about, we got to deport the files. They're right here.
Yeah.
They're right here. There are a list of them, and you're not exposing it.
Ooh. What about like Tim Dillon? What's he saying these days? Don't make the mistake, you guys. Don't make the mistake, you guys. Don't make the mistake of assuming that these people woke up with a conscience, okay? It's possible. It's possible. Maybe he feels bad for helping to elect Donald Trump. Maybe. Possible. What you should do is recognize that these podcast bros are shifting with the political winds, just like they were in, October and November of 2024. They were all thinking that the pendulum was massively swinging away from the Democratic Party, and it was for a brief window of time. It was. But I think people like Andrew Schultz, and I think people like Cenk, and I think people like Anna, although she recently did a mea culpa, I think they incorrectly calculated that the winds would kind of stay in a rightwards direction longer than what actually happened. Because now we're seeing a massive pendulum swing away from Republicans, not necessarily towards Democrats as being the goal. I think obviously the Democratic Party has enormous problems with their credibility and approval numbers right now, but people are voting in droves for the Democrats out of disgust for this administration. Tim Dillon. All right, let's watch Vosh go full doomer. Ginger Pit Boss, thank you so much for 13 months. Appreciate it. I'm going to turn Tangia back on. Here we go.
Okay. Is there any reason it's all happening now, do you think? Yeah, I think that the experiment might be getting near the end. It might be getting near its end. And it's possible that there's going to be a larger crackdown now because the powers that be are aware that we're kind of like about to run out the clock on social stability that's built on a collective consensus, democratic mandate, and an adherence to the social contract. Like, for a long time now, we have been able to maintain social order off the promise that things are getting better, right? Like, that's how China's been doing it. You historically, the way governments have maintained social order is either through threat of force or the promise of like mutual protection, right? Usually both. Like a king obviously rules through force, but at the same time, there's like, the king manages the kingdom and protects it and so on. Only recently has social order been upheld on the prospect of like constant progress and betterment. Does that make sense? Like, if you go back to the 1400s or whatever, or fuck the 600s, the average peasant is not orderly and socially productive because they believe the world will be a better place when they die than when they were born. That idea wasn't really widely held. You had your plot of land, you had your job, you had your mission, you had your responsibilities, you have your family, and you live, and that's your goal. Your goal is to live as long as you can and do the best you can, and, after that, you pass it to the next generation. And more recently, since the Industrial Revolution, nowadays, everybody within their lifetime has seen this like explosive growth in technological and social progress. The world moves very quickly now, but
Adam with $10. This is all Vosh does now, is to full doomer all the time and nonstop Israel hatred.
I guess, like when we look at United States history, I will of course grant you that we are in totally unprecedented times. I would even grant you that maybe Vosh is right. Like, it's possible. It's possible that he's right. If he's gone full black pill, full doomer, maybe he's justified in that. Maybe we play out the tape and this democratic experiment in America has just completely failed 20 years from now. I wouldn't bet on that happening, but it's possible he's right. When you look at U.S. history, if we just want to focus on saying nothing of the 19th century and a literal civil war to end the institution of chattel slavery and the insane hyperpolarization that existed when that war occurred, if we just want to focus on 20th century history, I mean, talk about upheaval. That the 20th century was kind of nuts in the United States. The labors, like the struggle for like labor rights, like civil rights, you know, decades of intense polarization in this country. Political assassinations were way more common, although that seems to be ramping up a little bit these days. Nixon was privately like really concerned about an actual insurrection, about an actual like revolution in this country. Yeah, speaking of people being killed, like the Kent State massacre, you know, that was like pretty bad. So like the moment that we're in right now is unique because Donald Trump is at the helm and he's just so uniquely dangerous and corrupt. And so that, I think, naturally leads people to taking like a maximalist doomer position. But when you compare where we're at now to like 75 years ago, I think 75 years ago, the risk of it all just coming apart was probably greater than the risk that we face right now. But, you know, I'm sure like everybody in my chat, unless you're how old, 75 years old, we weren't alive then. So we didn't witness that kind of division in this country. And so our frame of reference is all fucked. You know, our frame of reference is like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama and Joe Biden and George W. Bush. I mean, that was like the Iraq war was bad, but you never worried about George W. Bush, like, you know, trying to steal elections, for example.
Because it moves quickly, it moves out from under our feet. People no longer believe that life can remain stable and steady. You can't be born, learn a trade, and then just do that trade your whole life and then die in the same house that you were born in that was left to you by your parents, you know?
Sure you can. I don't know what that means. Huh? I'll bet you that happens a lot.
That stability doesn't exist anymore. It's not.
What is that based on? I don't understand what that means. Why can't you do that? Yeah, like the trade still exists. Parents still pass their homes down to their children.
Like the unchanging countryside. It used to be there were areas that were left more or less unchanged for centuries. Like entire villages, communities of people could live and die and live and die and live and die a dozen generations in a row, and the whole area being fundamentally the same the entire time. But now, totally impossible.
I don't know if that is true. I don't know if that is true. I think there are a lot of rural areas. You know what would be an interesting fact to look up? Like, what percentage of the country of Americans have not left a 50-mile radius? How do you spell radius? Radius in years. I don't know. There has to be Forbes 2019 percentage of Americans who never travel beyond the state where they were born. A surprise. Okay. Fucking paywall.
11% of respondents have never traveled outside of the state where they were born. Over half of those surveyed, 54%, say they've visited 10 states or fewer. Okay, hang on. Let's tally it up. How many states have you guys visited? For me, it is New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Florida, Texas, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Arizona, New Mexico. I live in California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, Hawaii. I think that's it. I've also visited New Zealand, Australia, Germany, England, Spain, Portugal. So that's technically outside of the state, right? As many as 13% say that they've never flown in an airplane. 40% of those questions said they've never left the country. Over half of respondents have never owned a passport. Okay, I think those might be the best numbers that we can get on this. But I do think that there are like rural enclaves in this country, like a lot, that don't really change all that much, like culturally, or certainly don't change as much as kind of like big bustling city environments.
Whole world around, everything everywhere is changing so quickly. So if we don't have that prospect of stability, if we don't have that idea of like, well, my job is to hold on to this little plot of land with this little family and this little house.
You guys are distracting me, but Trump talked about the Texas Senate race.
Mr. President, Texas, a Democrat won your special election in an area that you had won by 17 points. What is your reaction to that?
I don't know. I didn't hear about it. Somebody ran.
I didn't hear about it. He said, I didn't hear about it. And he tweeted, or he posted that day encouraging people to vote. It's like, oh, there was a race last night? No, didn't hear about that. Just now finding out now. What happened? A Democrat won? I don't know. Total lightweight. I don't know anything about the Republican in that race.
Where?
In Texas, a special election for legislative
The 9th state Senate seat.
I'm not involved in that. That's a local Texas race. You mean I won by 17?
All right, guys.
And this person lost. Things like that happen.
Does it worry you about the...
Well, you don't know whether or not it's transferable. You know, I'm not on the ballot, so you don't know whether or not it's transferable. But, you know, you put the Democrats in, you'll end up with open borders again. You'll end up with crime all over the place. We have no crime anymore. And, I mean, think of it. The country has the lowest crime it's had in 125 years. In recorded history. The year 1900. That's a long time ago. So it's very good. No, I don't know anything about it. I didn't know. I mean, I know there's a race going there. And it's too bad. What can I say? I have nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Protest said, can you watch this and show me how this is bad for your coalition? It's a 5-minute video from Kyle talking about the race last night.
I got some amazing breaking news here, but before I get to that, let me just say I'm currently in the midst of prepping a colossal segment which goes through all of the news.
Here's what I will say about Kyle. I'm going to give him flowers right now, okay? I like this beard. It's a good beard for him, you know? He's got kind of like it doesn't look like he grows a very full beard in the face. And I like that he's picked a style that I think really works. But you know what I really appreciate about this beard is he doesn't like try to necessarily hide the patches. Like he lets them grow out a little bit. But he does, this is just really phenomenal, like beard trimming, I think. A lot of people, they trim their beard kind of too high to their chin or too low. And he seems to have hit that sweet spot. And I'm just a sucker for like salt and pepper. And in fact, I'm fucking jealous
I am so youthful with vigor, and I'm so virile that they just don't come in. Like, where the fuck are my... You can't, they just don't, you know, like, I want this shit. I'm not fucking kidding. Like, I want my, like, white beard. I'm ready. I am fucking ready for it, you know? I've wanted it for years. For fucking years. You're 42, not 65? Yeah, but how old is Kyle? Kyle's younger than I am, isn't he? He's 38 years old, bro. 38 years old. Look at that. Hassan. He's got the fucking salt and pepper thing. Gassy Mexican. He's got the salt and pepper thing. My dad had salt and pepper shit when he was my age. And I'm stuck with this auburn beard or whatever. This ginger beard. Anyways.
New Epstein leaks for tomorrow. You do not want to miss that segment. I think I might actually break the record for length of a Secular Talk segment. My guess is this is going to go longer than 1 hour to give you all of the new updates in regards to the Epstein files. Just absolutely mind-blowing stuff. And I'll sum it up by saying this. It's worse than anybody thought. It's worse than anybody thought. So prepare yourself for that. Again, we'll get to that tomorrow. Tune into the show tomorrow.
I also kind of like that he does like the Backstreet Boys hair thing and a fucking hoop earring. Like, he just doesn't give a fuck. I honestly, I'm not even kidding. I respect that. Just full send, bro. Yeah. Like, why not? Take it back to the late 90s. Frost your tips and put in a hoop earring. Just rock it, you know?
Tomorrow. But the breaking news I have for you right now is truly incredible. So it appears that the Democrat Taylor Ramett is going to defeat the Trump-endorsed Lee Wamsgans and flip deep red Texas. This is deep red, heart of MAGA country Texas. It's the 9th district. Get this, guys. The seat has been held by Republicans for 35 years. It was like in the early 90s was the last time that a Democrat held that seat. And in just 2024, not that long ago, it was basically...
I saw this reporting, by the way. I saw this. Somebody linked this in the chat. An Abu Dhabi... Hang on. I did not. An Abu Dhabi royal backed a secret $500 million investment in Trump's crypto company. Months later, UAE won access to tightly guarded American AI chips. Jesus fucking Christ, you guys.
Basically Trump plus 20. And they have screwed the pooch and shit the bed and jumped the shark so thoroughly that now they went down. So just incredible stuff. The last numbers I saw, it was 57 to 42. The Democrat was up a 31-point overperformance versus 2024. Just absolutely incredible. And by the way, he's also a pretty solid lefty. This was not some middle of the ground asshole trying to split the difference and get MAGA votes. No, this was a lefty who was repping left issues. One of the things I know I saw.
What do we know about this guy? Taylor Ramett. Texas policy platform. Supports repealing anti-union laws, supports statewide rent stabilization. Ooh. Supports raising the minimum wage to $20 an hour, supports fully funding veteran mental health care, believes in strict legal consequences for traffickers, supports fully funding recovery programs, supports universal single-payer health care, opposes a THC ban. Yeah, he does seem pretty decently left.
single pair. That's pretty wild. It's won a ruby red seat in Texas. Fucking wild.
On the platform was like housing for all. Like, these are the things that they tell you, the egghead Democratic staffers tell you, oh, you're not allowed to bring up stuff like that because you're going to alienate the moderates, and we need the moderates in order to win. Apparently, you don't. Apparently, you need to get your base out, and that's exactly what happened here. So at this point, Democrats have flipped 8 state legislative seats in special elections in the 2025 and 2020.
That was my district in Texas that flipped. The Republican is the CCO of Patriot Mobile and was endorsed by the True Texas Project, a Christian national group.
26 cycle. And that includes Texas, Mississippi, Iowa, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Mississippi. So again, a lot of these are like deep red, which have no business going blue. But Trump is destroying the country so thoroughly, and the Republicans are standing on the sidelines and cheering him on with their pom-poms, that the country is effectively revolting. They see the fascism that's being implemented. They see what's happening in Minneapolis with the ICE Gestapo thugs. They see all the warmongering that Trump is doing around the country. They see the trade war, which is leading to economic catastrophe. And everybody's just like, we can't do this anymore. We can't do this anymore. By the way, one of the big reasons why the Democrat won is because the Hispanic communities not only reverted to the mean, they're now probably a little more Democratic than they were before.
So it's interesting because somebody linked this video in Twitch chat saying, how is this bad for the coalition? And it's another example of my big criticism of Kyle, which is that he is not a reliable Democratic Party coalition member. He will only spend time gassing up people that ideologically align with him. Like my whole thing is flexibility. I don't care what your platform is, to a certain extent. Like if you ran on a platform of killing everyone's firstborn, then we'd probably have some issues there. But within an acceptable sort of spectrum of Democratic Party policy, I don't really care. So if that works in that district, if you run a populist in a ruby red district like the one in Texas last night and that message resonates, great, go for it. Go nuts. If it's a district that you're going to have to run a bit to the right on a number of issues to appeal to that particular electorate, do that too. That's great. That's the difference between me and Kyle. Like, he will spend his time actively trying to destroy any element of the Democratic Party that does not strictly conform to his virtue, his purity tests. That's the difference. I think that's pretty destructive. I'll take it, I'll take it. Like if Kyle tells his people to support the Democrats that are on their tickets, that'll be the big test, you guys. That'll be the big test. When we get closer to the midterms, we'll say 3 months before the midterms, I want to see videos of Kyle saying, you guys should vote for every Democrat that shows up on your ballot. That's what I want to see. And I don't think we're going to see that. I would love to be wrong, but I don't think we're going to see that. Anal Barf. What a fucking disgusting name. With $20. Thank you so much, buddy. I know you think Kyle is the same person as Hassan, but wait, I don't, for the record. But Israel-Palestine broke a lot of people's brains. Watch the debate between him and Crystal Ball versus Brianna Joy Gray. He was full-blown Joe Biden supporter. He can be reasoned with. No. I've seen that debate. We've watched that debate like 3 times on this channel. So I know that he has a part of his brain that can be not only pragmatic, but like fair. I know that's possible with Kyle because I've seen it. That's why I find him so frustrating. Is because that debate performance against Brianna Joy Gray was like, oh my God, is Kyle unbelievably based now? You remember, chat? I don't know if I was streaming on YouTube at that time, but Twitch chat, you guys might remember. I was on a big pro Kyle Kalinske like arc for several months. Like, this is phenomenal news. I was like, look at him. Look at him. He's going up there and saying incredibly base things, and he's just so accurate. And like, I was like very pro Kyle for 3 or 4 months. And then, yeah, I think you're right. Israel Palestine, I think, really fucked everything up. In so many ways, it fucked everything up. My whole thing is flexibility. Kyle should be exiled. I'm not going to use language like exiled, but I don't think this should be controversial, okay? To Pisco, like to people like Pisco, I am not saying don't go on breaking points. I'm not even saying you need to be mean to these people or use the same kind of tone, exasperated tone that I use. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that when you go on to these platforms or when you share spaces with these people, when you share a platform with these people, and they say things like Josh Shapiro covered up a murder, that is your time to jump in and really pounce on that. You can be firm and assertive without being mean and petty. You can still be friendly with people and have a really firm tone on a few things. That's what I want to see. I want to see those kind of claims when they're made, they're oftentimes just not even addressed. You say something like, oh yeah, but did you hear that Josh Shapiro covered up a murder? And then you just like move past that. We need to pause on those moments. We need to we need to actively pause those moments and say, hey, hang on a minute. What you just said is kind of crazy. Like, and you don't need to be mean about it. I've never said we need to just like fully ostracize, never share any kind of space, you know. Maybe for like tankies. Maybe for like literal tankies. Grassroots with $20. I used to watch Kyle and Crystal routinely. And when they got married or around that time, it's like they radicalized each other. I can't tolerate either one now, but was long-term fan of both. Well, I think they got married like kind of close to October 7th. So, I mean, I don't know if it was the marriage or October 7th. Yeah, just like don't lie about Democratic Party candidates. Just don't lie, and definitely don't spread conspiracy theories that you didn't even bother to fact check. Like the Josh Shapiro covered up a murder claim. It took me, I did it on stream, 2 to 3 minutes to fact check that claim. And then you look into it and it's like that Josh Shapiro never had the authority to change the way that there was a woman who was stabbed like 100 times or something crazy, like 20 to 100 times. And this happened years ago. And for whatever reason, that was classified as a self-unaliving. I'm not sure if I can say that word on YouTube without getting demonetized. And there was a big uproar about it because people were like, well, she was obviously killed. And so then I think Josh Shapiro became the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, if I'm getting this correctly. And the charge that he covered up a murder is basically that people were asking him to change the classification from self-unaliving to homicide, but he didn't even have the authority to do that. So that took about 3 minutes to look up. And it pisses me off when people like Kyle with like huge platforms traffic in this kind of quote unquote information without even doing any kind of due diligence. It drives me insane. Anal bar for the $100. Kyle needs to leave his left echo chamber, and he doesn't really do debates with libs. If he talked with you and Lib and Learn guys, he could be less lazy and ideological. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. I asked him if he would be down to debate Laksha. I wanted to host a conversation / debate between him and Laksha about electoral strategy. And he replied with a kind of, I don't want to say snooty, but he was kind of pissy with me. He was like, well, actually, I think that in the face of everything that's happening with Trump right now, all we should be talking about is Donald Trump. And I think it's actually destructive that you spend so much time talking about lefties. I was like, okay. And so that was that. I think that would be a good conversation between him and Laksha. I think that would be a really interesting conversation. SSW Breed Ducks with the tier 1 membership. Thank you so much, buddy. Coach with $5. That I think I already got you for that. Gallstone, thank you so much for the tier 1 membership. Chat, how do I put a live stream on 1.5 times speed? When you figure it out, let me know. I have the Jew with $5. Talk about these election results constantly because in a vacuum they are going to seem unbelievable. They will use this to claim it's rigged without context. Adam, I got yours, and then Ginger Pit Boss with 13 months. All right, let's go back to Vosh dooming.
And keep it all together. Now that that's not possible, what unites us? What allows people to believe in the social contract to the point where they're willing to be productive and industrious and law-abiding and so on? And my belief is that since the Industrial Revolution, which is when things really kicked off, what people have been bound together by is the belief in progress. Not just progressives, mind you, but conservatives too. Conservatives nowadays, and I'm including fascists in this, fascists believe in progress, right? It's just the kind of progress they want is bad. Conservatives believe in progress. It's just the kind of progress they want is bad. They believe in changing the world, you know? This is unique. Before the Industrial Revolution, it just wasn't that common, or maybe before the Enlightenment. You know, you can set the bar wherever you want, but the idea is that the world is fluid and transient and alterable, and they want to grab the steering wheel of the world and turn it in a direction that favors them. They want to alter the world they see, you know? Everyone believes this now to varying extents. They want to make things better, or at least they think they do. And I think we're running out the end of this experiment, because for the past 250 or so years, for the most part, I think there's been a collective understanding, even in the worst times, right? Even with the Spanish flu, World War I, World War II, there's been a narrative that there are bad things, but through goodness, you can overcome them.
There's this idea that polymarket is surprisingly accurate because it represents a kind of like a more meaningful position, because people are willing to like put their money up. And for some reason I'm thinking about that right now. If Vosh really truly believes that we are approaching the end of, I guess he means liberal democracy and free market capitalism, I guess. Is that what he's talking about? When he says the end, is that what he's talking about? If he really believed that, like, why not invest in, you know, building like an underground bunker in like the woods of New Mexico or something like that? Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Like, if you really think that, okay, are you taking like hand-to-hand combat lessons? Did you purchase a firearm? Are you stocking up on MREs? Did you see Bugonia? Not yet, no. I mean, I guess you can explain that by maybe it's possible that, you know, he's just like literally just totally given up. And should the day ever come where everything comes crumbling down, you know, maybe he plans to take a more permanent solution there. I'm not, you know, I really don't, but like, do his actions really match with that kind of analysis? Does he actually think it's all coming to an end? Because if he did, would he not be preparing for that?
Even with the Great Depression, you know, even in times where life was wretched and miserable for a lot of people, we had that narrative. And I'm not saying the narrative was always consistent. It wavered a lot, I imagine, but I do think there was that narrative. And I think it's been all over the world, in India, in China, in places that are less materially developed. They have this narrative, maybe even more so. A lot of their immigrants come to the United States. They're very industrious. They're very productive because they believe earnestly in the idea that hard work can earn you a better living. And we might be running that out. We might be reaching a point, maybe, at least where it feels this way, where it feels like the line is broken and technological progress can happen, but it's not going to improve your life. Technological progress improving your life is a 20th century thing.
What? What the fuck? What am I thinking of? What did my mind immediately go to? What's something that happened semi-recently that greatly improved your lives? Probably like the biggest example recently. I'm not talking about ChatGPT. I'm not talking about Ozempic, although those are both examples. Come on, somebody. Nope. Still haven't gotten it yet. I'm not going to move on until one of you guys gets it. What is a technology, somewhat recent kind of technology, that was used semi-recently? Thank you, for Christ's sakes. mRNA vaccines, yeah. Operation Warp Speed. They developed a vaccine to treat a novel coronavirus within a month. You guys realize that? Within a fucking month. And then they spent the next several months testing it. And then I took the vaccine, and then all of a sudden, life was somewhat normal again. Took a little second there with Omicron and Delta, but you know, for the most part, things went kind of back to normal, like pretty quickly. This idea that technology improving your lives, like technological progress improving your lives, is a 20th century thing? What? What? What the fuck? 50,000 people die every year because of traffic fatalities. And we got Waymo cars that have like a 95% like less chance of getting in some kind of a fatal crash. I mean, that seems pretty significant. Like just medical technologies alone, if we just focused on that, makes what he said pretty fucking ludicrous. Like, we are very, very, very close to having a vaccine to treat certain cancers. Pancreatic cancer has a mortality rate of something like 96%. It's crazy because it's really difficult to detect. And by the time they detect it, in most cases, it has already spread to like other parts of your body, say like the liver. And we are very close to having vaccines that can prevent pancreatic cancer. That seems pretty significant. Grassroots of $5, the pasteurization of milk literally saved hundreds of thousands of lives, and that was in 1860.
Now, you just get different shaped labubus.
What the fuck? Wait a second. I thought Vosh was like pretty intelligent, right? Like he's not, you know, he's not like a dummy, right? He's not like dumb, right? But this is the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life. The idea of that technological progress improves your lives is that ended in the 20th century? What? What the fuck? What? What? I don't even... What? What? What is he talking about?
Social progress is done. We peaked in 2015 or something. I don't know. The idea of transformative social change as a concept is done. Even fascists theoretically the most aggressive status quo breakers of our time, the fascist parties all across the West have no vision for changing the world.
What is this even based on? Does he actually try to justify the claims that he's making? I don't understand why he's resigned to this idea. Like, what is it based on? Is it just purely vibes that we're talking about here? Piffox Grand, thank you so much for $5. From what I've watched, he's very hit or miss. One moment he'll be really smart, and the next he's divorced from reality. I mean, this section right here is blowing my mind. We're making technological breakthroughs that have very real impacts on people's lives so often in the 21st century.
In fact, fascists everywhere don't. Nobody believes in changing the world anymore, possibly because the complexities of the global economy make it impossible to change things without just causing mass famine. Look what happens in Syria, you know? The Syrian revolution takes place. What changes fundamentally, you know? The new leadership engages in the same nation-building projects that every other developing country engages in. The fascist governments, the fascist parties all across the West are just like edgy 4chan trolls with access to a few more levers, you know? You have like incredibly powerful people, but Xi Jinping ultimately is still a servant to the global economy in many ways. Likewise with Modi in India. You have people who like theoretically could be these great men, but they're not. Even Vladimir Putin, you know, he starts the big land war in Europe, the greatest in nearly a century. And what comes of it? An almost immediate stalemate and a continuation of pre-existing social trends. Nobody has the ability to grab the wheels and wrench them in any direction anymore because there's so much inertia. There are too many people, too much money, too many resources, and everything is too decentralized for anybody or any organization to really truly wrench the wheel anymore. The inertia is what's driving us forward, and the inertia is driving us in a bad direction. A direction where we could theoretically have everything, but we don't, and we can't do anything about it. And I think that between that and...
I don't understand what he's saying. What is this based on? I don't understand this.
The social instability that's basically guaranteed.
Does he get into specifics about what he thinks is going to happen? Like, does he get into specifics about, like, are we headed towards fascism? Are we headed towards socialism? Are we headed towards a Mad Max dystopia? Like, what is, does he lay out any kind of a roadmap?
As climate change continues to take over, speaking of inertia, I think that maybe a lot of Western governments, not just Western, but Western governments, are reading the writing on the wall, and they're going, we are not going to be able to maintain social order via mutual consensus anymore. It's just not going to be possible. Like, the world will not allow, maybe sometime in the indefinite future, but in the near future, we will reach a point where widespread distrust, antipathy, cultural stagnation, and a lack of hope in the ability for things to get better, all of these things are going to compound to a point where nobody will be willing to work. Nobody will be willing to...
He also seems to be suggesting that that there was this like mass consensus across the globe that is like somehow shattering in the 21st century, and it's like, was there though? Did this consensus actually exist in the way that he's proposing here?
Follow the law. Nobody will be willing to, as a matter of...
I say DGG is black-pilled, but this is... I take it all back. Maybe that's just... I don't know what to call that now. This is black pill. Like, this is black pill.
Of consensus, participate in the betterment of the world. And when that day happens, the government will need to be ready to rein in the population. The government will need to establish...
He just sounds like he sounds like a more polite Alex Jones. I'm not even kidding. He sounds like a more polite, more kind of academically sounding Alex Jones. You know, just imagine this was Alex Jones saying it in with different language and a different tone, and it's kind of like the same kind of, or he's kind of like, you know, like or he sounds like something maybe like your weed dealer, you know, your weed dealer. I don't know about your guys' weed dealers, but some of my weed dealers, it was kind of like Pineapple Express, where you had to sit down and kind of have like a conversation. You know, it's like Swiss custom to have like a 10-minute discussion and do pleasantries before any business is done. Like I had a couple dealers like that when I was like 20. So you had to sit down and smoke weed with them and fucking listen to their bullshit. Kind of sounds like that too, you know? ZJM 2.0, thank you so much for the membership, buddy.
The infrastructure that allows it to maintain control in
just imagine. Okay, hold on. Here, I'm going to take everything off the screen, okay? Just imagine it in your mind, all right? You're sitting in your weed dealer's apartment, and he passes you the bong, and then this is him speaking.
Situations where it might not otherwise be able to. That's my guess. I think that historically the way people have done this has been through transformative social change, or the promise of transformative social change. FDR with the New Deal.
Come on. You guys can hear it, right? That's what this is. Hold on, we got to get the sound of a bong. Okay, hold on. Let's do this again. Here we go. You ready? All right. You're 19 years old. You're back in your college dorm. You go to your weed dealer's house. You sit down. You're smoking weed with it. He's talking. Here it is. Boom.
Adolf Hitler in the 1930s or Mussolini in the 1920s, you know? You have big leaders with big promises and big ideas. But the world was smaller back then, and people actually could wrench the wheel of history. Mussolini and Hitler could fundamentally change the direction the country was moving in. But guys, I'm going to be real with you. I don't know if Donald Trump is fundamentally...
And you have a moment where you kind of like snap awake and you're like, wait, how long have I been here? What are we even talking about? How did we get on this topic?
The direction that this country is moving in. I feel like he's hastening a bunch of processes, but regulatory capture and the submission of federal power to corporate interests and irrationally combative foreign
Fancy with 5 Canadian. I love you, buddy, but you need to stop saying that Trumpism is dead. It's like when the villain falls off a cliff and is presumed dead just to come back. Well, that's why I'm being careful to not say like the Republican Party is dead. The Republican Party is definitely not dead. Trumpism is dead. I mean, like there's Trump himself. He's obviously in power. Trumpism is bigger than Trump. Trumpism is about the larger movement. The electoral losses are not going to stop. We're going to continue to fucking pummel Republicans. Can you please stop meowing? Please. Please. No, she's not hungry. I'll double check. Hang on. She's got food. She's got water. It's just Esme's downstairs. She freaks out. I forgot what we were talking about.
Policy.
So, but yeah, but Trumpism is fucking dead. What is Trumpism without political power?
What does Trumpism mean without political power? What is Trumpism in the face of like a 30+ point swing in a ruby red district in Texas last night? What is that? What is Trumpism at that point? So he's never going to rebound from this. This is it. We are watching a slow and steady decline. He's not going to rebound. It's just going to be, it's just, I don't know where it plateaus, but it's going to keep going down. And wherever it plateaus will be a place where his political capital has completely dried up. And so that's what I mean when I say Trumpism is fucking dead. Okay. That's it. It's toast. We're watching Trumpism in hospice care right now. That's what this moment is.
Done to excite or exacerbate national tension with the interest of using it to like perpetuate military proliferation and like the proflagration of war in the Middle East. All of these things were
proflagration. The fuck is that? Recklessly extravagant or wasteful in the use of resources. Okay.
Already happening. Like, we made an enemy out of China because after the Cold War ended, we needed some kind of big bad to justify continued military spending. We already supported Israel and what they were doing in Gaza. And while Trump is certainly worse for it than Biden ever was or ever could be, regulatory capture has been a thing for decades. It's been worsening rapidly. Under Obama, it worsened considerably. You know, the extent to which, well, every single fucking government official is some kind of business magnate. Trump hasn't really wrenched the wheel in a new direction. If anything, Trump has just, as the president, taken his hands off the wheel and allowed history to continue in the direction that it was already moving. Look at the Labour Party in Britain, right? The Labour Party in Britain seems to have done basically nothing other than signpost and defend a law passed by the Tories.
ZJM with the tier 1 membership. I think I already got you. Fancy Teeth with 5 Canadian. I think I already got you. Grassroots Hegemon with $10. If it's Mad Max, I'm so ready. I have a Jaguar with no hood. I put a 6.2 liter V8 in. It spits fire and is dangerous as hell. And its vanity plate says Shagwire. I've been waiting for this my entire life. That's true. You need to add like a frame to it though. You need to like reinforce it with like a really sturdy frame. The Swagnostic with $10. This is how I sound commenting on CBS News on LSD. John Smith with €6. I think Vosh is not liberal doomer. He's doing Marxist labor theory of value, predicts workers run out of tasks to do, ergo time to do communism. I don't know. I think he is approaching like the analysis of the decline through a Marxist lens, obviously. I don't know if he's saying that communism comes after. This sounds a bit more doomy than that. Like I think he thinks that like the whole thing's coming down and the fascists are going to win, or I don't know what he thinks, but it doesn't sound good. Fancy Teep with 5 Canadian. If it's dead, show me Trump, the Trumpism body. He was elected twice. It had a pulse. That election was a year and 3 months ago that he won. The fact that he won an election a year and 3 months ago is not strong evidence that Trumpism is not dead. That just means he won an election. What's happened since then? They're fucked. They all know they're fucked too. They are fucked, you guys.
Pertaining to internet censorship, and has gotten militantly transphobic, seemingly for no reason other than to appease J.K. Rowling. But again, it's just momentum. The real black pill is that there can only be momentum now, that there are just too many people, too much money, and too many economic relationships in the world for anyone or any organization to do anything transformative anymore, and that all we can really do is like lightly guide the
What is this premise that we've reached the limits of technological progress? What the fuck is he talking about? How could you arrive at that conclusion? In 2026, how could you arrive at that conclusion? Like, the speed of technological progress, I think, is going to increase, not decrease. I don't know what this is based on. Okay, I don't think I can watch that whole video. Okay, all right. Well, I'm glad somebody shared that with me, because you guys have been talking about him going full doomer pill for quite some time. Mike Johnson was interviewed on Meet the Press this morning. Let's hear what kind of spin talk about, brother. This has got to be one of the hardest jobs in the world, to be like a Senate or a congressional leader for the Republican Party. Josh Vidania with $5. Warp Speed and Ozempic are pretty earth-shattering. I know we don't think of them that way, but they really are. Obesity rates are going down in this country for the first time in decades, I think. Pretty sure it's been an upward trend for a long time. A new study published.
When it's time to start your business, it's time for Shopify.
A new study published Friday in the journal JAMA Health Forum found that obesity numbers ticked down slightly from 46% in 2022 to 45.6% in 2023. Now, I actually think we have more recent data that shows, yeah, here. I mean, this is pretty significant change. Obesity had been ticking up since 2009. I assume, actually, it's been ticking up for decades. We went from obesity rate of 25.5 in 2008 to 39.9 in 2022. Kind of makes sense that you would see kind of a more sharp increase during the pandemic stuff. That kind of makes sense. And then we see this decline, and we pretty much attribute this exclusively to Ozempic type, what are they called, GLP-1s? This is a pretty big deal. All right, let's check in with Mike Johnson and see how he is spending things.
Dr. Johnson, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Always great to be with you. Thanks.
It is great to have you. And as we sit here today, we are in the midst of a partial government shutdown. So I want to start right there. The latest reports are that you've spoken to Leader Hakeem Jeffries, that he has made it clear that you don't have Democrat support to reopen the government. So let me put this bottom line question to you. Are you confident that the government...
Hell, sweet hell, thanks so much for $20. Make sure you're checking your voter registration at the beginning of every month, especially if you live in a red state. Would be dope if someone did a series showing folks how to register in every state. Hey, thank you so much for the $20. You know what's the easiest way for people to figure out how to vote, how to register to vote? Go to vote.gov. Boom. Easy peasy. Or has the Trump administration annihilated vote.gov? Go to vote.gov. You select your state or territory. I'm going to do it here. Just, I'm going to click, let's say I live in Indiana. I click on that and then boom. There's actually, it links you directly to Indiana's registration website. I don't know if it's like that for every state, but vote.gov is super fucking easy. 2 clicks, bing, bang, boom.
Will reopen on Monday with Republican votes. Do you have enough Republican support?
Well, let's say I'm confident that we'll do it at least by Tuesday. We have a logistical challenge of getting everyone in town, and because of the conversation I had with Hakeem Jeffries, I know that we've got to pass a rule and probably do this mostly on our own. I think that's very unfortunate. Here's what's happened. The House and Senate appropriators worked very well together, bicameral, bipartisan committee-led process, especially after the 43-day shutdown, the longest in U.S. history last fall. No one wanted to put that pain on the American people again. The Democrats forced it. We were insistent that we would not allow that to happen. But, you know, I tip my hat to everybody, appropriators in both parties who got this together. After the Senate acted over the weekend, we will now have 11 of 12 separate appropriations bills approved by both chambers. Because they modified our package, they've sent it over a little differently, which means we've got to address the bills again. So they're going to separate the Department of Homeland Security bill. Our intention.
I saw some people having a negative reaction to Hakeem Jeffries because Jeffries insisted on language that would call for a, quote, ban on deporting U.S. citizens. And people were like, what? That's already illegal. This is so fucking stupid. And I'm just asking people to think about these things just a little bit. Just like, stop. Don't just assume that Hakeem Jeffries is a fucking idiot, okay? Assume, just for the sake of like gaming it out, just giving it a fair shot, doing like fair analysis. Operate under the assumption that Hakeem Jeffries is not actually dumb, and then try to understand what could the potential value of that be. And I think when you think about it, it's not that difficult to arrive at the potential value of doing that. That didn't stop Graham Plattner from posting this. I really dislike this guy a lot. I gotta tell you guys, I fucking really dislike this guy a lot. Fucking does not. I don't love this guy. I don't love him. This moment that we're in right now represents a pretty significant moment politically for a number of reasons, not least of which being the fact that Donald Trump is very vulnerable. The Republican Party right now are very vulnerable. The ICE stuff is blowing up in their faces. Donald Trump seems to be escalating a situation that calls for de-escalation. And that escalation is causing real political damage for Republicans. There's a very non-zero chance that the blowout in Texas last night had to do with disgust over the ICE situation, which does two things. It energizes the opposition and it depresses the base. The more people are pissed off about what ICE is doing, the more they show up. They're going to be way more motivated to vote than the people who have to like defend these things. People don't want to have to like defend the ICE stuff because it's so indefensible. And so they just become depressed and they don't vote. So this is a moment that I think this is probably, in my opinion, this is probably the most vulnerable Trump has been. I mean, talk about a 1-2 punch. The ICE stuff and then the Epstein stuff. And we didn't even talk about the Epstein stuff because I don't normally like to dive into like that conspiracy stuff. But some of that shit is crazy. Like there's so much crazy shit going on in those files. Donald Trump himself was like named and then they had to take it down. It was like a whole thing. What's his name? Andrew Schultz. Like he's lost the pod guys, and I actually think that that's a decent bellwether. I'm not even kidding. Losing the kind of enlightened centrist pod guys. That is, I think, a pretty decent bellwether for where the country's at. Where's the clip? Jesus, Josiah, you tweet so much. Josiah is tweeting like crazy. Holy moly. I can't even find it. I've been scrolling for like 5 minutes. Andrew Schultz. Let me see if I can find the clip.
This was possible to happen in the United States of America. And what I'm specifically talking about with this situation here, and like not only this one, but also what we've seen ICE doing, like entering homes without warrants, like arresting people. It is unconstitutional. And they've done this weird thing where like they have like a federally administrative warrant, which is some bullshit. It doesn't even allow you to actually have access into a home. Yeah, they're trying to find ways around the system. And what that says to me, when you're willing to shred the Constitution to preserve it's not only your power, but your ideas of what should happen, it is incredibly un-American.
I agree. So it gets reported on that House Dem leader Jeffries just told me in his news conference he wants a ban on deportation of U.S. citizens as a part of a deal on DHS conduct and the immigration crackdown. Why do you guys think he did that? What potential? Can you guys think of any potential value to doing that? I can. Why do you think he did that? You don't have to agree with the logic. You can say he's wrong, but why do you think he did it? Do you think it's because he doesn't know that deporting U.S. citizens is already illegal? Do you think it's because he doesn't know that? Why do you think he did that? There's a couple reasons that I think stand out to me that just are very obvious. The first reason is right now is a moment where not only is Donald Trump vulnerable to people who are already engaged in politics, right now there are a lot of people engaging in politics that didn't before. It's bleeding into the mainstream. Everyone is talking about the ICE stuff. So people are paying attention that weren't paying attention a year ago. I would guess like millions of people right now, maybe not paying close attention, but they're paying attention when they weren't like a year ago because shit's popping off. And if Hakeem Jeffries insists on language that bans deportations of U.S. citizens, well, what has he done by doing that? He's guaranteed that the fact that Donald Trump has deported U.S. citizens will be something that is discussed. It will get news media attention. This person who is tweeting it, I think, is a journalist. She is reporting. So people see this and they might think to themselves, wait, what the fuck? Why do you need a ban on that? But that's the point. Because now maybe I'm guessing that by him doing this, maybe millions of people have now become aware that the Trump administration has deported U.S. citizens, including a 5-year-old girl that they deported to Honduras like a week or two ago. So that's pretty valuable. If you can raise awareness of the fact that Donald Trump has deported U.S. citizens, that seems like there's value there. But then the other thing is, like, if you manage to get that language in a bill and it reaches the floor, do you want to be a Republican who votes against a ban on deporting U.S. citizens? Do you really want to be that Republican right now? Do you really want to be that Republican right now who maybe has to defend your seat in November? Do you really want to be a Republican that says, you know what? I'm going to vote against a ban. So there's like 2 reasons that I can think of off the top of my head to do this that make perfect sense. If you just think about it for like a second. Vexed liberal with $10. He's just making it more visible to regular people. He always wants people on the record for or against deporting citizens. Like, it's such a, I don't know. To me, that's just like straightforwardly smart. Like, MAGA's on the back foot right now. Force them to defend deporting U.S. citizens. Do that. Force them to vote against that. And then, congratulations. Now you get to put that in a political ad 5 months from now. Representative, I hate Mexicans from Texas, thinks that it's okay to deport U.S. citizens. He even voted against a ban on that. You know, like the boom, bing, bang, boom. There it is. It's like so straightforward. And people are like, what is this
Does he not know that deporting U.S. citizens is already against the law? Like, this is so stupid. It's like, just fucking think about it. Just fucking think about it. You are not the target demographic. He is not proposing that language to make you aware of what's happening. You already know. This is for the normies. This is for the fucking normies. This is for the normies. That's who this is for. You're not the demographic. Chill.
Is by Tuesday to fund all agencies of the federal government except for that one, and then we'll have 2 weeks of good faith negotiations to figure it out.
And just bottom line, you think you have enough Republican votes to reopen the government by Tuesday?
Yeah, because Republicans are going to do the responsible thing and fund the government. They're playing.
But you have a razor-thin margin. That's what I'm getting
I have
at.
a one-vote margin, yes, for the rest of 2026. But we're going to demonstrate once again that this is the party that takes governing seriously. The Democrats play games with this, and I think it's very unfortunate because what they're doing is they're jeopardizing services to the American people. When you're talking about the Department of Homeland Security, remember what's included in that. You have TSA agents for the airports. You have the Coast Guard. You have FEMA. We're in the middle of a winter storm disaster on the East Coast. We can't play games with this.
So let's talk about what Democrats are demanding as a part of this. They want to see changes to DHS, to ICE, in the wake of the deaths of those 2 Americans in Minneapolis.
Do we have any gun owners in the chat? I need your help. I need your help with something. Do we have any small pistol owners? So first of all, I like this gun. I like it. I'm doing a lot of dry fire exercises, but I'm having a hard time with the grip. With your support hand, like I can't show you the gun because I'm live on YouTube. With your this is your support hand. Is it this right here? Like your thumb down to this kind of meaty part, down to like the lower right hand. Is this what you're pushing up against the pistol? And if so, I'm having a hard time because like my dominant hand or my shooting hand, my thumb is not flush along the bottom of the slide. I have to kind of like remove my thumb from my dominant hand because otherwise I keep accidentally engaging the safety. Is that fine? Is that okay? Have you tried putting it in rice? Yes, for small pistols, that can be hard if you have man hands. I have very long fingers. I have very, very long fingers. Big hands and compacts don't mix well. Yeah, but is it okay? So guys, is it okay to have, so like my support thumb is going all along, like right underneath the slide right here, where it should be. And then my dominant hand is kind of like off the gun and resting on my support thumb. Does that make sense? Just get a 44 Magnum? Oh, brother, I got one. I got one. And do you know what's starting to click for me, guys? Do you know what's starting to click for me? Is that the way that you grip the pistol, and I should have been thinking about this the whole time, but the way that you grip the pistol, it's not just about managing the recoil. It's about keeping the gun firmly in place while you're pulling the trigger. So you have a smooth trigger pull that doesn't like push or pull the actual gun. Like you're actually keeping the gun still as you pull the trigger. Now, that seems pretty obvious. But for some reason, I wasn't thinking about it in that way. For some reason, I was thinking about the grip purely in terms of managing recoil. I wasn't thinking about it in terms of keeping the gun on, like exactly on target when you pull the trigger.
which I had no idea how fucking difficult it is to shoot straight with a fucking gun. It's so fucking hard, you guys. So fucking hard not to like pull it down and to the left or pull it to the left. Like keeping the gun straight as you pull the trigger. That shit is so fucking hard. And there's all these little things that go into it, you know, the mechanics of your grip. There's all these things that go into it, and you have to keep track of like 10 things at the same time. Practice makes perfect. Listen, I'm getting in a lot of repetitions. I went to the range on Friday. I shot like 200 rounds with this gun. This gun was filthy when I got home. And I'm going to the range again here in like an hour and a half. I'll probably shoot another like couple hundred. So I am getting the repetitions in. But yeah, I was just having trouble with the grip of this gun with like my shooting hand. I'm doing everything right. Like I'm gripping my hand as high as I can go on the gun. My, you know, bottom 3 fingers are wrapped around here. Like I feel my support hand, I feel really good about that, but my thumb is like, my dominant hand's thumb is like not, there's no room for it. I have to wrap it over my supporting hand. Anyways, did you guys say that it's okay to just have your dominant hand thumb kind of resting on top your supporting thumb and not necessarily like along the rail? How much did you shoot this gun before you bought it? I did not shoot it before I bought it. Yeah, just don't cross them. Right under the slide release. No, it doesn't fit is what I'm saying. It's not a tiny gun, but it's not a big gun. And so like when my support hand comes on this gun, on this gun, like the meat of my kind of my palm kind of like right below my thumb, and then and like all along like the bottom of my palm, like that is kind of going on a straight line up this way, and then my thumb is resting along the rail here, which that I'm pretty positive is like the correct way to do that. Just my fucking dominant thumb just cannot fit here. It's like this is where it starts here, and so there's just no place to put this thumb. You grip with your dom first, then add your supporting thumb. So wait, hang on. So discarded, you're telling me something different. Do you necessarily always want your dominant thumb to be along this rail? Like if you had to choose between, you only get to put one on along the rail, your dominant thumb or your supporting thumb. Which one would you pick there? You should have got the larger version of that gun. Conceal size like this is nice, but if you're having thumb issues, maybe the larger version would be better. Less recoil too. So is it compact or do you just have massive hands? So this looks small. I wish I could just show you guys, but I can't because YouTube doesn't let you do it. It probably looks pretty small on the screen, but it's not like, not a tiny gun. This is not like a little gun that you put in your purse. Like it's a, you know, a regular size pistol kind of thing. No banana for scale. Ooh, this is probably like, it's probably about the length of my phone. The Pro Max phone. It's probably like that length. So it's not like tiny. Anyways, I'll work on it at the range today. See what I come up with. But I can't. I'm having a little bit of trouble figuring out like the best way to grip the gun.
The changes they're asking for include
any MP guys know the Glock equivalent. So the gun is like, I think almost the same size as a Glock 19. I'm pretty sure. Because I'm pretty sure this gun was meant to be direct competition. It says almost identical. The Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 compact is almost identical in size to the Glock 19. Yeah. There are so many articles and videos on this based on my single Google search, Hutch. Oh, no. Believe me. I have watched so many YouTube videos on proper grip in the last 3 weeks. Like, I'm devouring gun tips because I'm actually trying to get better. Like I feel, and it's fun. It's like fun to study something and practice something and then get better. It's fun. Grassroots with $5. Get a lower body with more angular rake. The handle Hickok is 6.8. Has the one he recommends, but that's what I carry. You can move the release. Get a lower body with a more angular rake. You mean like just replace the body? I mean, Hickok has fired this gun. There's footage of him. Hold on. Hickok 45. Is that his name? This is the gun here.
Well, I didn't bring any hollow points out today, did I? But we all know, I think we did in the other video, and there's nothing that new about these. These have been around a while, these M&Ps. They're pretty good guns. They're very popular, and I know they're pretty popular in the competition circuit and everything. Let's shoot this target over here a little bit.
He does the Weaver stance, where you kind of push out more with your dominant hand instead of like squaring up in an isosceles stance. You like push your dominant hand forward more. I think that's what like all the old school cops do. And you can find so many videos online of gun people saying, "Oh, no. You don't want to do the Weaver stance. Yeah, isosceles stance. That's the way to go." But I don't like it. I like the Weaver stance. That feels way more comfortable to me. The other one, I just feel like I can't do it. It's just not comfortable for me. Like, look at his thumb though. Look at his thumb. I feel like his thumb is off. Look at watch here. Oh, hold on. You see his thumb? You see? Wait, no, he's putting his support thumb straight up in the air. And he's pushing his dominant thumb. He's like pushing it into the... So he's doing a totally different thing than I'm doing here. Because he's grasping with the inner knuckle. What does that mean?
What did I put in there? I've got those, Syntex in there, I think. .com tree here. We appreciate them passing that.
See what he's doing with his thumb? He's putting his dominant hand along the rail. And he's just pushing his... He's not even pushing his support thumb forward along the frame. Try using your right thumb to press down on the safety. It's called riding the safety, and it helps with recoil too. Oh, interesting. Okay.
That on to us.
I could probably do that. His thumbs are like a golf grip, if you're familiar. I'm not.
Nice. I've got that one set better. I don't know if you notice. I've got it balanced and level.
I wish he would go on the other side.
The bottom, the base of it, and everything, so it actually works better.
Can't see what he's doing with this thing.
A little trouble.
Maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll try that. He's 6'8", so I assume he's got those ET fingers as well. Maybe I'll try that today. We'll mess around. Okay, sorry.
Include an end to roving patrols, no more face masks, mandatory body cameras, and judicial warrant requirements. Given what has been happening on the ground in Minneapolis, Mr. Speaker, do you support any or all of those changes?
Listen, there's been tragedies in Minnesota and in Minneapolis in particular, brought about in large measure by the circumstances on the ground. You have the governor and local officials there, in some cases inciting violence. They're encouraging citizens to disrupt the operations of law enforcement, and it sets up a dangerous situation.
So is she going to push back on this? Because nobody said disrupt the operations.
Calling for peaceful protests.
Well, there you go. They are, but they're also saying to resist. They're also saying to, they're doxing the agents of ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And so when you're talking about masking, the reason that ICE agents wear masks is to protect their own identities and protect their own families.
Well, so the indoor range that I went to, I asked the guy at the counter, I was like, oh, would one of you guys be willing to kind of show me how you grip large bore revolvers? And they were like, well, we don't really do that here. And I was like, oh, okay. Then I went to outdoor range, and I'm going to go to it today, actually. And the guy there, he was fucking super eager. I asked him a bunch of questions. I think he might have even fired my gun, maybe not. But he showed me like the exact grip, and he was like super into it, giving me tips. So yeah.
And in some circumstances, they've had a price put on their heads effectively by local officials, and that's what's created the dangerous conditions.
But these state and local officials respectfully didn't pull the triggers that left these two Americans dead. President Trump has even acknowledged that ICE has made mistakes. Do you think within that context, any changes need to be made to ICE and the way it's operating on the ground?
Look, I think President Trump was right to acknowledge that. I think he's operating in good faith. He said he wanted to turn the temperature down. He put Tom Homan in charge there. He was right to deputize him over that situation. He has 40 years experience in Border Patrol and in these issues. So I think that this is going to happen, but we need good faith on both sides. Some of these conditions and requests that they've made are obviously reasonable and should happen, but others are going to require a lot more negotiation.
And
whoa, that's kind of interesting. Did you hear that? Sure sounds like Democrats are going to get concessions here.
Is going to happen, but we need good faith on both sides. Some of these conditions and requests that they've made are obviously reasonable and should happen.
Ooh, that seems good. That seems good.
But others are going to require a lot more negotiation.
And you'll support some of those that you say are reasonable?
Yes. In fact, I was in the Oval Office with the president a few days ago when he was on the phone with Leader Schumer, and they agreed, and Tom Homan was on the other line, and they agreed to most of those conditions. But the mask, for example, the additional judicial requirement for a warrant would be a whole other layer of effectively bureaucracy. Remember, the immigration judges have already issued warrants, and that's what the ICE officials are acting upon. So there's a lot of details in this. We could get deep in the weeds, but we will do that over the next 2 weeks. And I hope that Democrats will be in good faith, as Republicans are, to try to bring some order to all this.
Are there any proposed changes you wouldn't agree with? They're demanding also roving patrols and body cameras be worn by ICE officials?
I think even Tom Homan has acknowledged both of those things are acceptable and what he was intending to do already. So I think we're on the path to get agreement, and I really hope that everybody will come to the table in good faith. That's what's going to be required here.
Let me zoom out and ask you about Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. As you know, there's been a lot of focus on her hours after Alex Preddy was killed. Secretary Noem accused him of being a, quote, domestic terrorist before the investigation had been done. She said he had brandished a gun at agents, which videos and DHS itself later contradicted. Do you think the Department of Homeland Security needs new leadership, Mr. Speaker?
Look, I think Kristi Noem has been called to do a very difficult job. Remember that the agency was effectively eviscerated for 4 years under the Biden administration. Wide open borders, so nearly 20 million illegal aliens came across that border, and many of them are dangerous, hardened criminals and even terrorists. So she's taken over a crushing assignment. I mean, anyone who is in that position would have a difficult time with it. I think it's important for all of us at any level not to prejudge circumstances until we get all the facts, and I think that that's been a good reminder to everyone. We've seen now in the last couple of days that Mr. Peretti that passed, it was a tragic situation, that he was involved in at least in the week before that tragic event in inciting law enforcement. And, you know, everybody's seen the video now of him kicking the taillights out of an ICE vehicle. If local law enforcement had been involved, we have to ask ourselves this question: would he still be alive right now? Because if they had apprehended him and he was in jail safely, he would not have been on the street.
Would he still be alive if Donald Trump had not surged 3,000 DHS agents to a city because of a fucking viral story on fraud?
To have been involved in that circumstance.
But you don't think kicking a taillight amounts to something that's punishable by death, though?
Well, no, of course not. No, and that was a separate circumstance. But the point is, it is unlawful to impede the operations of law enforcement, and it sets up a dangerous situation when people do that.
But do you have 100% confidence in Kristi Noem, Mr. Speaker?
I do have confidence in Kristi Noem. I think that
full confidence.
Yes. Look, she has a difficult job. I have a lot of sympathy for her job. I've got a difficult job too. Look, I think that there will be a recalibration in some measure. This is President Trump saying that they're going to look at the way operations are conducted. The intent is to rid our communities of dangerous, illegal aliens, hardened criminals who are here causing great havoc across the country, and they need to continue that work, and that is fully supported by the American people.
All right, let me ask you about another major story. On Friday, the Justice Department released what it said were the rest of the Epstein files. A group of Epstein survivors responded with a statement saying it's not enough, saying, quote, Epstein's enablers continue to benefit from secrecy. The Justice Department cannot claim it is finished releasing files until every legally required document is released and every abuser and enabler is fully exposed. As long as the survivors say that not enough is being done, has DOJ finished its work, in your opinion?
We all want every abuser and enabler to be fully exposed. We want justice to be done. It's long overdue. But I do think the Department of Justice is complying with the law, that we have now 3.5 million documents. You have over 2,000 videos and I think 180,000 images out there. And as soon as they finish the final release, they give us the full report to Congress, which is required under the law, and then they issue I think in the Federal Register, they have to publish why they've made any redactions. The DOJ will have fully complied with the law and done their job. But think of the mass, the volume of documents that they've had to go through. Remember, they have to go through and make sure that they're protecting the innocent. So some of these young women who were victimized, we do not want them to endure further harm. And so that's been the intention, is to make sure that their names are taken out of that.
President Trump's name appears throughout the Epstein files, including in many of the new documents released this week. Now, we want to stress appearing in the Epstein files does not amount to or imply criminal wrongdoing. But do you have any outstanding questions, given that, about the relationship between President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein?
I do not. I mean, I've spoken to the president about this privately and personally many times, and he's spoken very candidly and openly to the public. He says the same things privately that he does publicly. He's never had any concern about that. Remember, President Trump was one of the first people that called Epstein out. He kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago, off the property, because he heard of some of the nefarious things he was engaged in.
No!
He's never had any concern about that at all.
He did it.
No, push back here. Because Donald Trump himself, just less than a year ago, said that the reason he turned on Epstein was because Epstein was like stealing his girls. Not because he heard like bad things about Epstein.
At one point called these files a Democratic hoax. But let me ask you about...
No, she's not going to push back on that. No, what the fuck?
Well, what he said specifically was the hoax of the Democrats trying to turn this into a political issue and use it against him. That was wrong.
Let let me ask you about something that Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, who's now resigned from Congress last month, in part over this fight to release the Epstein files. This is something she said about you in an interview with the New York Times. I want to give you an opportunity to respond. She says, quote, "I want you to know that Johnson is not our speaker. He is not our leader. And in the legislative branch, a totally separate body of government, he is literally 100% under the direct orders of the White House." Mr. Speaker, how do you respond? Are you 100% under the direct orders of the White House?
It's comical. If Marjorie had ever attended conference meetings and been involved as a member, as she should, she would know that that is simply not true. I vigorously defend Article 1 of the Constitution. That's the legislative branch. I was a constitutional law attorney before I became Speaker. The President and I work closely together because we have unified government. That's what the American people voted for last fall. They gave the Republican Party control of the White House, the Senate, and the House. And the intention there is that you work efficiently and effectively together. So the President and I have conversations, sometimes multiple times a day, about policy procedures. We have a lot of our discussions and sometimes debates together behind the curtain because you don't want to do that when you're in the same party out in public. That has made a very effective and efficient government. And I will say this, the first year of the Trump administration that we just got through was probably one of the most productive in all the history of Congress. And you can go back.
Oh, my God.
That's what history is going to show. Very productive, very efficient, effective government. We had to reverse all the madness of the 4 years of the Biden administration, and we got so much of it done already and still more yet to do.
Is there any area where you do disagree with President Trump? Is there one place that you can point to?
Yes, but as I just said, we do this privately and not public. I'm going to support my president. Our party is leading. We are governing. We have closed the border. We've gotten the economy going again. We're fulfilling our promises, and that's why we're going to win the midterm election, by the way, and keep this going.
Okay.
Oh, God, clip that, please. Flip it, archive it, please.
Take me to my next question. In fact, I want to talk to you about the midterms. And I want to play you something. This was in focus this week. President Trump said this last week at Davos. This was about the 2020 elections. Take a look.
It was a rigged election. Everybody now knows that. They found out. People will soon be prosecuted for what they did. It's probably breaking news, but it should be. It was a rigged election. Can't have rigged elections.
Is it healthy for this country's democracy, for the sitting president to be questioning the 2020 election 5 years ago, something claims that have been deemed to be false, again now that he lost?
What's healthy for our country and our democracy is for everyone to be laser focused on election integrity. If you don't
but that's not election integrity,
well, yes,
Mr. Speaker.
Yes,
this was asked and answered and litigated and re-litigated. The page has been turned. He's still talking about an election that he lost, allegations which have been deemed claimed.
The president
false.
is keeping the focus on election integrity. It must be in the forefront of everyone's minds, because if you don't have a free and fair election, you cannot maintain a constitutional republic. He's bothered by what happened in 2020. And we all know there was a lot of irregularity and problem in that, and we're not going to relitigate it. That's not the point. What we have to do is go forward and ensure.
What do you mean we're not going to relitigate it? And what do you mean we all know that there were serious irregularities?
We don't have these problems in the future. That's why the House has passed the SAVE Act twice already. We have further election integrity measures that we're working on now. And everybody in both parties should applaud that. They should support it.
You're saying there were irregularities. State and federal election officials called 2020 the most secure election in history. But let me ask you about what's happening in Georgia this week. FBI agents executed a warrant at an election hub in Fulton County, seizing ballots and records tied to the 2020 election. I want you to listen to what Democratic Senator Jon Ossoff of Georgia had to say about this search. Take a look.
And here's the thing. This is a shot across the bow at the midterm elections. He tried to steal power when he lost it in 2020. We have to be prepared for all kinds of schemes and shenanigans. We have to be prepared for him to try to deprive people of their voting rights in Georgia.
What do you say to that allegation that President Trump is going to meddle in the 2026 midterm elections, that's what he's doing in Georgia.
I find it comical that one of the senators from Georgia is talking about schemes in elections. Remember, Georgia was example A of that in the 2020 election.
Well, there were two statewide recounts in Georgia, Mr.
They
Speaker.
sent mail-out ballots to everyone. Everyone knows all of the problems that occurred in Georgia. It was very controversial and remains so to this day because of all the things that happened there. Again, we're not going to relitigate that, but what we have to focus on is going forward to ensure that there are not questions about the elections, and that's why Republicans are working at the federal and the state levels to clean those things up, to clean up voter rolls, to make sure illegals are not voting, for example. That's what the SAVE Act is about. And we have to continue that, and the president is keeping a proper focus on it. This investigation is to ensure that all the questions about the elections in Fulton County are investigated properly so that people have confidence in the system again. That's very important.
But there are really no questions about election integrity from 2020 that have not been asked and answered. Even the the Republican-led governor has pointed out it's been years and no one has ever come forward under oath with evidence of fraud in Georgia. But let me ask you, was it appropriate for the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard? She was on the ground there. She is prohibited by law from taking part in domestic law enforcement. Was it appropriate for her to be a part of the raid on the election center in Georgia?
I don't know. I do believe the DNI has some involvement and some role to play in ensuring election integrity, but I don't know the details of that, and we have to reserve judgment. I will.
The National Security Act of 1947 bars U.S. intelligence agents.
That's kind of remarkable. You're not sure if it was appropriate that the Director of National Intelligence being at a FBI raid. You're not sure if that was appropriate. That seems. Feel like maybe we should pause on that one. What do you mean? Isn't it crazy that you don't have the full confidence in this administration that would be appropriate? That seems kind of remarkable.
From exercising law enforcement powers.
But we don't know that that's what happened there. I don't know that she was part of a law enforcement function there.
Okay, let me ask you, bottom line, do you have confidence in the results of the 2026 midterm elections that they will be free and fair?
I do, because of all these efforts and
oh my God.
And the legislation that we've been working on, and the efforts and the attention that we're keeping on this subject. I think it's very important. And again, it's not a partisan thing. Every American should applaud that, and we'll continue.
All right, House Speaker Mike Johnson, thank you so much for being here.
Okay. All right. Just about what we expected from him. All right, guys. Today is a short stream. I'm going to the range with some friends. Leaving here in just a little bit. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Tomorrow will be another long stream. We're doing like super long streams on Monday, starting in the morning and then just going straight up through the Live and Learn episodes. Those are every Monday starting at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. I don't know if we have a guest tomorrow. I don't remember. I think it was supposed to be Vadim and Ogre Boy, but I think he requested another extension on that one. So we'll see. But I will see you guys tomorrow at the regular time in the morning. Again, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. I'll see you guys then. Adios. Bye-bye. Que tenga buena noche.